Jean King's fight for feminism. Billie Jean King was born into a very athletic family on November 22, 1943. She herself was a very athletic female. Her early sport was softball, and by the time she was 10, she won the city championship with a team of 14 to 15-year-old girls. But then, it occurred to her that she must try a ladylike sport instead. Her father suggested tennis. She got into it very quickly.
So we went to Brown Sporting Goods, and I read every tennis book, all 3 of them that I could find in the library. So I go out to the public park for my first instruction. And at the end of the day, I said to my mom, "Mom, I found out what I'm going to do with my life. This is it."
And indeed it was true. Billie Jean King has went on to receive 39 Grand Slam championships overall in singles, doubles, and mixed doubles, including 12 Grand Slam singles titles.
I really love tennis. I don't like it. I love it. When I play, I feel I can do anything. I feel freedom.
But her most famous win is known as the Battle of the Sexes, a match played on September 20th, 1973, between her and an ambitious man named Bobby Riggs. Bobby Riggs was born in Los Angeles, California in 1918. He became the world's #1 amateur tennis player after winning the singles, doubles, and mixed doubles titles at Wimbledon in 1939.
Riggs is in the near court as he gives another sharpshooting exhibition. No wonder he smothers Parker in straight sets and adds the Eastern title to an imposing string of victories this season.
In the next 9 years, Riggs won Wimbledon once, Forest Hills twice, but soon after that, he seemed to vanish from the scene.
In the 1950s, he began working for the American Photograph Corporation.
For about 20 years, it seemed as though Bobby Riggs disappeared. Where'd you go? Commuting to a job?
Commuting to the American Photograph companies, who we had our home offices at like 32nd and 7th Avenue. It was right across the street from Penn Station, so that wasn't too bad.
And by 1967, he was inducted into the International Tennis Hall of Fame. It looked like the end of his tennis career, but there was much more to come from him in the years that followed. At the time, Bobby Riggs was known as a self-proclaimed male chauvinist and a really big gambler. He felt as though women were not on the same class as men, and that he could be any woman's tennis player.
No way a woman can play tennis with a good man tennis player.
In order to prove this, he challenged the #1 female tennis player at the time, Margaret Court, to play a match on May 13, 1937, for Mother's Day. There are many mixed opinions on this match, and no one knew for sure who was going to win.
Fighter, hustler, he places the ball very well. I think she's going to have her hands full.
I kind of think that if you're competing seriously all the time, Margaret Court will have an edge.
I've got to go with Bobby in this match. He's a great player. He's a great control player.
100 men in the United States that could beat Margaret Court or Billie Jean King.
I think that it's very exciting, and I believe that Margaret Court will beat Bobby Riggs.
Margaret Court didn't quite get the chance to beat Bobby Riggs, though. In fact, Bobby Riggs crushed her, beating her 6-1 to 6-2. This event was soon dubbed as the Mother's Day Massacre. Feeling unbeatable, Bobby Riggs issued a battle to Billie Jean King as well.
So finally, Margaret Court, who ended up being #1 in '73, played him on Mother's Day, and they call it the Mother's Day Massacre because I think he won like 6-2, 6-1, or 6-1, 6-2. And if you don't know anything about tennis, that's really bad. Okay, so
what were you thinking when that happened?
When I found out, I was in Japan. I got on, and the flight attendant told me, coming from Japan, that I said, "Who won the match?" And she said, "Riggs." I went, "Oh no, I'm going to have to play."
This battle was famously titled the Battle of the Sexes. Billie Jean King was a very active feminist in women's tennis, and she believed that women should be earning the same amount as men. So, she hesitated to accept Riggs' offer because she knew that if she lost, it would greatly set back women's tennis.
I felt like the whole world was on my shoulders, and I thought, if I lose, it's going to put women back 50 years at least.
However, she realized that it would be a bigger setback if she refused, and reluctantly, she began to train. Bobby Riggs also started training, but in a very different way.
Roughly here about 135 pills, and I try to take them 3 times a day. I've got so sometimes I can get 10, 12 at one time, in one gulp, see, like this. Some of these are tougher to take than others because some of them are bigger.
But as the match became closer, Riggs' mouth became even bigger.
Number one, the women should stay in the bedroom. Number two, they should get to the kitchen. Number three, support the man, support the king.
He said, I challenge Billie Jean King.
I love pressure. You can try to thank me all you want.
Fast forward a couple weeks in history to the day of the match. The Battle of the Sexes took place on September 20th, 1983 in the Houston Astrodome. More than 90 million people worldwide watched this match. It was intense, and everyone realized the fact that Billie Jean King would redefine women's rights if she won. And soon, the day of the match arrived. On the day of the match, they were both brought in very fancy ways. For example, King made a Cleopatra-style entrance on a gold litter carried by men dressed as ancient slaves. And shortly afterwards, the match began.
The Battle of the Sexes turned out to be a wrap.
Billie Jean King realized that she won for all women. She knew that from that day on, the world would think of women differently.
When you oppress people, either by gender, by race, by sexual orientation, when you do that and the doors become ajar, they will fly open and they will come, and they have.
As word got out, people started to realize the truth about women, and the government passed a bill called Title IX. Title IX is the basic idea that a girl can be able to play in any sport that their school offers. And if the school doesn't have a girls' team, she can play on the boys' team. After this, many more girls began to play sports.
Title IX, which was June 23rd, 1972, where federal funds going to private or public high schools or college or universities would get equally spent on both genders for the first time. It was visual, though. It was about men and women. Everybody got so emotional about it. They got so emotional. Men were emotional. I couldn't believe it. It brought out the worst and the best of everybody. I mean,
In 1973, Billie Jean King founded the Women's Tennis Association. By 1974, she founded the Women's Sport Foundation and co-founded World Team Tennis. But a few years later, she got what she really wanted: equal pay.
Rod Laver won Wimbledon. He got 2,000 pounds in 1968, and I got 750 pounds. And I went, oh.
So now, thanks to her, all 4 Grand Slams give equal pay to tennis players, and many other sports are starting to give equal pay as well.
We owe the tour to Billie Jean King and the original 9 and everyone that made all those sacrifices to make this tour that we play on. I don't know what it was like for Billie Jean King to play Bobby Riggs in that huge stadium in Houston. She must have been nervous. It must have been a lot of pressure because Bobby Riggs was talking a lot of smack. But being the hero that she is, you know, she stood up for us. She stood up for women's sports, not just tennis, but women's sports and just women in general.
So, as one could see, Billie Jean King became a hero for all women. She paved a road for equality and equal pay, and gave hope to those women who were looked down upon, and remodeled the world to be what it is today.
Respect your opponent and never underestimate.